Hello everyone, just give me 1 second to pull up the presentation. Okay, and so my paper is on analyzing two movies, He is Dragon and The Blue Kite, as different views of the rise of the Communist Party and Russia's influence. So starting with He is Dragon, I'm just going to give a little bit of a summary of it. So He is Dragon or I Am Dragon, those are two translations I've seen of this movie, was made in Russia, and it depicts Mira, which is the girl standing in the cover, as a young fiance to the grandson of a dragon slayer, essentially. And with that, her father is the Duke, and so their marriage is meant to make her into a duchess when she gets older. So she goes to get engaged, and as they're getting engaged, the dragon comes in and takes her because part of their wedding ceremony is included an old tune that would call dragons on. Mira is then taken to this island made up of dragon bones, and she spends her time trying to escape while also trying to make the dragon, which can change into the form of a boy named Armand, to humanize Armand again, because when he became of age, he could choose whether or not he wanted to become a dragon. And he did so through hating the dragon slayer that killed his father. So she spends her time trying to humanize him, and that also shows an influence of Russia. So later on in the movie, after she's spending all this time, he does have this turnaround where he becomes violent again, and he tells her to leave, where she meets up with the search party made up of her fiance, a dragon, the grandson of the dragon slayer, and some of his men. Now, this is with both the dragon slayer and Mira knowing that if she truly loved the dragon slayer, her love would have been able to send a calling for him to come get her. But instead, she saves herself and tells them that the dragon has died. They all return back to the village, where during their wedding ceremony, Mira realizes that she cannot live without the dragon, calls on Armand the dragon again to take her back. And as Armand the dragon is about to kill her, her trust and love for him allows her to live, to survive, because he turns back into a human. And the movie ends as it begins with the audience realizing that Armand is a father. And during the movie, it was believed that all the children of dragons had to come with the death of the mother. But instead, the daughter allows the audience to understand that it was only boys that become dragons, and therefore only those sons require the death of the mother. So they end the movie with Mira and Armand going on a flight together. So there's a little bit of actually not just a little bit, there's a lot of symbolism here, where firstly, Mira is a young woman about to get married. So this is Russia seeing itself as a young nation, taking its place on the world stage. And then the next part of this is that the river Mira travels on is actually part of the Chinese-Russian border. And that was just an area that's been contentious for a long time. The next part is that Armand is a dragon, and Mira chooses Armand's name, and his name means foreigner in this film. So this is what allows the understanding of Armand is really meant to symbolize China, because the other works show that China as being symbolized through a dragon, and Armand's name being foreigner means that he is not of Russia. The next part is that the island that Armand lives on is made up of ancient dragon bones. And so it depicts China as this young nation, but it is part of this vast history. And so that's important to discuss, because it's like, while in the next movie, we're going to discuss how China sees itself as both the feminine, but in multiple stages, and China is new. This movie depicts China as all the dragons have the knowledge of the previous dragons, and they all live on the same land of the first dragon. So the next movie we're going to talk about was created in China. We actually watched this movie as part of class, and it's called The Blue Kite. And so this depicts the different stages of China had to take to become what is now modern China. And the movie is important because it goes through how the Chinese Communist Party and that rise has brought to the decline of Chinese society as a whole. And so just some of the symbolism here is that each father in this movie will depict a different stage in modern China's creation. And each one of those ends of the stages is met with both the degradation of Chinese society and the family. And that symbolism is seen through the death of each father. And the blue kite itself is symbolic of just this hope of bringing back a traditional China that valued family and society. So this is important because we're seeing this dynamic of China and Russia. And so Russia and the world saw its own actions as necessary, that Russia and the US saw China as this potentially violent and strong state. So Russia coming in and civilizing it is how they kind of saw it, was very, very good and important. And this was also seen around the time of like the end of the Cuban Missile Crisis, where the US was like, oh, they're not bad people, they don't want to destroy the world. But both Russia and the US saw China as a potential destructive force. But China saw Russian influence as more harmful than beneficial. We can see this through how the death of Stalin was seen on the radios, and that prevented Tito's birth parents from being able to initially get married. They have to postpone the wedding because of just outside Russian influence and that kind of power being pushed onto China. Okay, the next thing we're going to see is that countries see themselves in the feminine and see the other in the masculine. And this is important because, one, they both depict, China and Russia both depict themselves as women about to be married through Mira, the Russian duchess in training, and Taito's mother as before she's getting married to his birth father, and then as mothers. So in Taito's parents' case, his mother is always either married or about to be married. And in Mira's case, she doesn't get married till the end, but she's still seen as a younger girl because Russia is seen as a young country, while China saw itself as this old traditional civilization that's being destroyed by the Communist Party. And so this concept of countries seeing themselves in the feminine stresses this idea of balance within the country, as both countries saw it as the wife or mother's role to protect the family. And China, specifically in He is Dragon, is depicted as a man, but specifically as a potentially violent young man. So it is a person that doesn't know where their power needs to be directed at, so they direct it, like I mentioned earlier, violently. And that's part of the reason that Russia saw their influence on helping create this Communist Party, helping structure a government, and the rest of the world saw this as important too, as in being able to direct that power into what is seen as productive routes. But China saw that same rise of the Communist Party as destroying an old country that existed. So this begs the question on how does China and Russia see China as a country? Do they see it as a new country on just the bones of the old one, or an old country that is just changed a little bit with time, but this rise in a specific party destroying those traditions? So future avenues of research is like, why do countries see themselves in the feminine, outside of just seeing it as this balancing act? Because there's other ways of creating this symbolism, but in both of these films, they're both seen as wives and mothers, and not just as girls. And why are they put into these specific roles? And why does it have to be women? Can men be depicted, and are men depicted in other aspects? The next potential area is, does Russia consider China to be a threat? Because in the film He is Dragon, Mira trusts Armand to not destroy her. But some other papers I read about the history and modern history of the Russia-China relationship, Russians see China as the next big threat. So the question is, like, who considers China to be a threat? Is it Russian people, Russian government? Where is that? And did they consider the rise of the Communist Party to be a threat? The next part of this is, what do these questions and how do these films pose the Russia, China, and United States relationship? Because, like I said, Russia and the US saw Russia's influence on the creation of the Chinese Communist Party as good, but the US only really saw it as that after the Cuban Missile Crisis. And China saw the Russian influence as very bad because it was they saw it as destroying their civilization. But in modern times, research suggests that China doesn't plan on aligning itself with each country, with either country, in an offense against the other one. So that's just creating this question on how do they view each other in the international arena. And so that is my cited works, and this is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for listening.